My name is December James. I'm the voice of the saint and sinner. I speak for followers of Christ who fall short, still show up, and still choose him. Not because we're perfect, but because he is. And this is my testimony. I move, I get settled, I'm straight. Fast forward a couple months, and my second son is born, Samaj. Shout out to Big Maji. That's my boy. That's twin. He looks just like me. That's twin in him. So he's born, and I remember being so thankful because his mom had some complications in labor, and they had to do a C-section. And I was actually the first person to get to hold him, which was beautiful. It's very beautiful. He even tried to breastfeed off me. In the coming months, we're adjusting, and I'm finding myself in this place where I was with my first son's mom and having to relearn this person that I just created life with, because she's not the same person anymore. She's no longer just my girlfriend. She's a mother now, and the mother of my child. And I'm no longer just her boyfriend. I'm a father again, and father of her child. And so there was a lot of things in that dynamic that I don't think either one of us were necessarily prepared for. And because the things had happened so fast with us, I don't think either of us really had time to process exactly all of what was going on. We both made a lot of mistakes. We both were selfish in different ways. We both had our own idea of how we wanted to go about things, but neither one of us really did a good job at communicating that with each other. I know there was a lot of resentment at play. I know that there was a lot of unspoken feelings at play, definitely on my behalf. A lot of things I hadn't spoken that I had felt. Just a lot of dissension, a lot of disconnection, a lot of discourse just between us. And we tried as long as we could to kind of fake the funk and make it palatable, but just wasn't there. And there was a few things that happened where I felt personally disrespected and disregarded as a father and as a partner. And so I kind of fell back and took like a back seat and kind of threw my hands up with the whole situation. I was still available, but I wasn't present. I was willing, but I wasn't present. Because I felt, again, those feelings of not enough, not good enough, not wanted here, not desired here, inadequate, And in this time, still absent of a personal relationship with God. Still absent, even after all God had done. Still absent. And so as time would pass, we would reconcile and, we would try to make things work. But it never really was quite like, It was never all the way there for real. We would try. What I didn't know that I know now is that she was feeling a lot of things, but wasn't communicating them to me, but would communicate them to people on her side. And I would always sense that when I would come around people on her side, that there would be just a weird energy. Now I know exactly what it was, but it's neither here nor there. But like I said, in the months and years to come, we would try, you know, we would try, but it just, you know, it just wasn't, it never quite clicked all the way it did prior to the baby. And so there came this time last year, she was having some just complication with finances and the complex she was at. They were going up on rent, and it was stressful for her. And I didn't want to see her stressed out over that. So made the decision that she would come live with me. And like I said before, God has a way of exposing things when he's ready to expose things. And I think God used that to expose everything. Expose what she felt, expose what I felt, expose where we weren't on the same page, expose where it was just time for something different. Mind you, we're both getting high, getting drunk, trying to numb ourselves from whatever it is we're really feeling. Whatever it is we're going through and hiding from each other, we're both numbing it up. And in the time between when she moved in and to when she moved out, it was about 7 months. And in those 7 months, I learned so much. Not just about her, but about myself. And I had to come to grips with a lot of things about myself. One of being which that I enabled all of this. So everything I was dealing with, that I was going through, that I was experiencing, is what I enabled. And in that, I found myself doing a lot of coping to just make it through. Even to the point where I found myself drinking way more, just so that I could feel something for her intimately. Because a large part of me was just kind of exhausted and over it. But my flesh still wanted her. But my mind was like, I'm cool, bro. And so in order to give my flesh what he wanted, I would get intoxicated with her so I could be intimate with her and feel something for her. And this would go on for months. And one day I decided that I didn't want to drink anymore because it was starting to give me acid reflux. I was throwing up real bad in the mornings, and it just wasn't a pleasurable experience anymore. Little did I know that was God flipping the table. And so that's the first thing that God strips me of is alcoholism. I find myself shortly after then at a crossroads. April 2025. I won't go into dense detail just out of respect for her and her privacy. But she said something to me and it felt so disrespectful and felt like it disregarded so much about me. And I had to sit with that whole entire night. I just had to sit with it because it resurfaced all these different feelings that I had had regarding her over the years. And I remember laying on that couch in my living room, and this voice comes to me. And he sounds very weak, very just out of it. Like he had the fight of his life and he was on his last leg. He says these words to me. He says, "Why won't you respect yourself?" I'll never forget those words. I'll never forget that night because he said it over and over and over and over and over again all night long. And I'm tossing and I'm turning and I'm trying to go to sleep and I'm tossing and I'm turning and he just keeps saying, "Why won't you respect yourself? Why won't you respect yourself? Why won't you respect yourself?" And so I was left to answer that question. Why won't I respect myself? And the first thing that had to happen was I had to realize that I had not been respecting myself. And I started to journal, just something I've always been a big fan of, but I hadn't done in so long. And I started to journal. And as I started to journal, I came to this conclusion. The very lie that the enemy had told me and used to handicap me and disable me all these years, that I felt like I wasn't good enough. Felt like I wasn't enough. And that's why I allowed myself to live in a place where I did not respect myself for 36 years. 36 years of my life. I lived absent of self-respect because I didn't feel like I was good enough for self-respect. I didn't feel like I was worthy of self-respect. And after coming to that realization, I had to do something about it. This is where everything changes. So in the coming couple of weeks, some other things will happen. Caused me to open my eyes to different things. And so I made this commitment to myself on April 20th of 2025 that I would journal daily, would work out daily, I would read daily, and that I would spend quiet time with God daily. So on April 21st, the first day of this commitment, I go to the park to work out. When I get to the park, I park my car. My car is like facing this way. And when I get out the car, I'm facing like this way, looking up the street. I'm about to get my children out the car because I took them with me to the park. And God says, hold up. And that's one thing I've always known is the voice of God. I know what God sounds like. God says, hold up. So I hold up. I say, what's up, God? I says, I want you to stop and look around. So look around. I say, okay. God says, look to your right. Look to my right. He says, tell me what you see. So it's a graveyard, cemetery. He says, okay. I want you to look to your left. And tell me what you see. Look to my left. So it's the park, God. I see trees. I see grass. I see playground. I see the trail. It's a park. He says, okay. Pick one and stand on it. Pick one and stand on it. Most gangster thing God has ever said to me in my life. It was so gangster that I couldn't even respond. But I knew exactly what he was saying. He was saying life or death. Pick one. Either you gonna die being the version of you that you want to be, or you gonna live being the version of you that I have called you to be. I chose the park. And I went and I worked out. I had this football workout. It was like calisthenic based, and it was a crazy workout for somebody who hadn't worked out in years. But I went out there and I did it. I had my cleats on, everything. I was bugging. I was wilding that day. I was wilding. Ran my body into the ground, like into the ground. You hear me? Body was hurt. Muscles I ain't used in years. Everything is just hurting. I'm in pain. But I felt so alive, and I felt the spirit of the Lord like coursing through me, like, like I felt so alive for the first time in my life. Like I felt alive. Like that's the best way I can explain it. Like it felt so rich. Like I don't even have words for it for real, but I knew it was nothing like I had ever felt before. And even with my physical body being in pain, it's like it didn't even matter. Like, I felt it. And I knew that day, like something was different. And everything from that day was different. Everything changed that day, like everything.